Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to go over my rods, the end baits, mainly the baits that I am going to go for and grab out of my locker and have on my deck when I reach a new lake. A new lake, or these are also kind of like my go-to lures too for largemouth. This is for largemouth. A couple of these could be used for smallmouth too, I suppose, but initially what I'm going after right now in this video is about largemouth. These rods and reels, sorry, not rods and reels, these baits are my first grabs. So they're the ones that I have the most confidence in. They're the ones that I've caught a lot of fish a lot of fish with. So let's just dive right into these baits. These aren't necessarily in order on when I'm gonna grab them. It's just situational based. And there's two bonus baits that I'm gonna throw in there. So it's gonna be about 5 to 7, but typically 5 of these are gonna be fine. First one we're gonna start with, one of my favorites is the jerk bait. It doesn't have to be, so this one is a Rapala Husky jerk. My other favorite is the Googan Scout. I've gotten a ton of bites on that Googan Scout, so that's a huge confidence. That's probably the one that I will be throwing, and I don't have it out right now. But this bait, these jerk baits in general, for me all year long, I've gotten a ton of bites on these. I'll throw these anywhere, really, honestly. I've thrown them anywhere. I've thrown them around weed cover, weed edge. I won't throw them in weeds, right? Because you're gonna get hung up, and depending on how shallow, or depending on your weed depth, how deep your weeds go and wherever they're at, that'll turn to determine on what jerk bait I use. If I'm gonna use a deeper diver or a shallower diver. A lot of times I will throw this, though, typically on main lake points, around rock structure and docks, sometimes docks too, and sometimes just going down the bank. If I'm not, a lot of guys now, they're scanning forward facing, so you got that, you see a fish out there, just toss at that fish, right? But some guys, for the guys that don't, sometimes I will just go down the bank and just, pick the key points, the high percentage points that I feel like a fish is gonna be around. So this is bait number 1. I've had a lot of success with this bait. With the jerk bait. I haven't used enough of the Husky jerks yet, but I've used the jerk baits quite a bit, and I've had a lot of good success with them. A lot of good hookup ratio too. I haven't lost that many fish on them. And again, the main ones I've been using though is that Googan Scout. Not saying it's the best, but I've caught a ton of fish, big fish. I've caught walleye, I've caught pike, largemouth, smallmouth. So I've caught them all on that jerk bait. It's I don't know what it is. Every jerk bait is different, so I don't feel like one jerk bait is better than the other. I feel like they all complement each other because each one is built different, so they have a different action, and they've got different noise too. Like this rattle is going to sound different than the next jerk bait, so keep that in mind too. I don't feel like one jerk bait is better than the other. I just don't know why ones work more. I have no idea. And it could be just that, you're just not throwing around the right fish, or throwing around the fish, period. So the jerk bait is gonna be one of the baits I will have rigged on a new body of water, and one of my go-to baits. That I consider as one of the bonus baits, because I'm not gonna always start with that jerk bait. The bait that I'm probably going to start with is gonna be the jig. This jig, I gotta get it out of here. There we go. So this jig, we've gone over jigs before. This is my go-to for everything. This is the JE Custom Jigs swim jig, black and blue. Got a little craw trailer on there. It's the JE Custom Jigs mud bug, black and blue. This thing, even in clear water, guys. I throw this everywhere. If the water is super clear, I don't care. I've gotten some big bites off of this thing in clear water as well. So it's not just for dirty water. I get a ton of bites with it all over the place. And you can drag it, you can swim it, obviously, swim jig. And even dragging it, it still gets through pretty good. I haven't got hung up enough where I'm just like, wow, this sucks, I gotta get a different jig. This is my do-all jig. Is like one of my previous videos you guys saw. This is one of my go-tos, especially for when I'm throwing in heavy cover and I'm just trying to get a bite, just trying to see what they're getting at. So there's, I mean, just not a whole lot I can say about that, but that jig is one of my biggest go-tos when I'm going to a new body of water. Line, now it's on the black braided line. I don't know, if I'm going more open water, I'll probably tie on a 20-pound fluorocarbon leader to an FG knot, with an FG knot, and I don't know a lot of people's preferences on knots, but I used to do the double uni to uni knot, and that just doesn't get through the guides very well, and these guides they're small. The guides are getting really small now on some of these rods, so the uni to uni knot is not the best way to go. I started using the FG knot, and I use a modified FG knot with a couple different styles from Jake Wheeler and Seth Fighter. I combine both their styles, and it's been working really good for me. I flip and pitch with that too, so that's something to think about. I don't know, some other guys that have other knots that they trust that work well too. That's okay. I'm not saying that those are bad knots, but you know, use something that you can get through the guides. Okay, something that you trust and that works good for you. So the jig is going to be my #1 bait. I will typically throw mostly around weed cover and docks, but it will be probably 90% of the time I'm going to grab that. This next one though, we need cover for, and we need, well, you don't have to have cover, I guess, but it's a hollow body frog, and this one is black. I like black. This is the Minnesota Loon one. I haven't thrown it yet before, but the body nice and soft. You can get nice hookup on there. I haven't used this one yet. I got to trim those legs though. Those legs are really long. I like to trim the legs down. Not real much, too much. I mean, but well, like right there on one, and then keep a little bit longer on the other one. And what that does is it helps it walk. So when you twitch it on top water, it helps it kind of walk side to side. So this, basically when I'm throwing this guy here, and I'm always throwing the standard one, you know, the pointed nose, not the cup nose. The cup nose is more for open water. For me, I have better luck with the cup nose in open water, around docks and stuff like that. I will throw this one in heavy cover. I will throw this everywhere. It doesn't care what kind of weeds there are. I'll throw it everywhere. But mostly I'm looking for pads, and they just crush these frogs. There's no secret, definitely no secret. This is one of the baits that I will obviously pick up when I see pads, and even I will throw it in some not really real sparse cover, but as long as I see like a canopy, something that's providing a canopy, like a roof over the bass's head, that's where I'm gonna throw this too. And you can get some really awesome bites on it. So that is one of my topwater. There is another topwater lure that you could get that you could use too. That I just don't want to include too many baits. But another topwater lure is probably a popper. You can get a ton of bites, largemouth and smallmouth. I'm excluding that from here because that's not typically a bait I start with, but it has been proven to get a ton of bites, largemouth and smallmouth, and we'll shoot even crappie beat the popper too. But next one, we're gonna stay with weed cover, and if it's really thick and I'm really trying to get down into it, I'm gonna punch. I'm gonna do a flipping or pitching. I don't do a whole lot of flipping. I do mostly pitching. But here's my setup. I'm always going to start out with black and blue. Sometimes I'll go green pumpkin, but black and blue is always on my hook. And I use this is a 3/4 ounce punching weight. I will jump up to 1 ounce. Sometimes I'll go down to a half, but typically I'm starting out with the 3/4 ounces pegged. I always peg my punching setups, and then the hook, it's the Guggen heavy hammer hook, and the 4/0, I believe this is the 4/0 because this is the Bandito bug, and it fits perfectly. You can see it right down the bottom here. It fits right in there just perfect. So if they're going to try and short bite it, they're going to have to literally just grab the pinchers in order to miss that hook. I've gotten a lot of really good bites on this. I get the hookup ratio. A lot of people are like, well, you should be using a flipping hook or whatever. I've tried that. Maybe I just suck, but it didn't work for me. I lost a lot of fish. It just didn't work for me. I watched a video on Seth Fighter, and he used an EWG. Now I think he's kind of switched it up. I don't know for sure. Don't quote me on that, but I think he switched up and using a flipping hook now. I'm not sure. But he started with an EWG, so that's what I did. And once I just made that switch to an EWG, I got a ton more bites. Well, not a ton more bites. I was able, my hookup ratio went up. Let's just say that, okay? I was still getting a ton of bites, but my hookup ratio went up and I was getting more fish into the boat rather than missing them. I'd set the hook and then get a couple reels and then they'd fall off, or they'd come off. But this hook, this heavy hammer hook, like I've said before in my other videos, I say it a lot. I really like this hook, and for hooks, I'm mostly a VMC, hook guy. But for my favorite, but this hook is my favorite because it's a hybrid between an EWG and a worm hook. And when you text pose it, it does stay somewhat in line, and that's what I like. A lot of these worm hooks, the offset hooks, the hooks are out and it's straight out, and then you gotta just place the bait in like this, and then I just feel like you tear more baits that way. I have really good luck with my bait like this. So this bait is one of my go-tos for flipping and pitching, and I've had a lot of success with this bait. So this is always going to be rigged up on my deck if I'm fishing for largemouth and heavy cover, and you can just yank them right out of there with that. Another bait. Now there's a lot of Texas rig baits here, and some other confidence lures could be like maybe a bladed jig or a square bill. You can get a ton of bites on both of those too, but these are the baits that I've been using when I've been really searching for bites. Now this bait I was torn between this one and a bladed jig, because the bladed jig is very versatile and has gotten me a ton of bites, a couple of big ones, and is either largemouth, smallmouth too. Could go either way. So, but this one is just a worm. So this, I'm just gonna say worms in general. This, because you could use a stick bait on here. You could use, like, say maybe a 10-inch worm. This one happens to be like a 6-inch, 6.5, or whatever it is. It's a swimming worm is what this one is by Guggen Squad, and this is their blazing worm. And I like the June bug colors. That's what I'm going to start out with. June bug color, then maybe black and blue, or maybe, and then if nothing else, they're really finicky, they're biting it short, and I'll try green pumpkin. And if they're still biting it short and they're just not committing to it, then we're just gonna switch lures altogether. But I have really good luck with this one. I will throw this and I will drag this. So I have this tied. I've got fluorocarbon line tied with an FG knot to the to my braided line. I believe the braided line is 20 to 30 pound braid. And this worm, the reason why I've got fluorocarbon tied on there is because a lot of times I'm actually swimming it outside of the cover, but I am not afraid to throw it inside the cover too. I just don't throw it too deep with that FG knot, because that heavy cover and FG's knots, unless you've got heavy line, this isn't heavy line, they just don't last. And I broke off on a couple of them. There's a couple of nice ones. So I've got a different worm setup specifically for that. If I'm going to be in heavy cover. So, and it's really just on heavy line. Really, that's all. It's the only difference is. And I'm going to throw this pegged with a 1/4 ounce weight. Sometimes I'll take the peg and I'll slide it up the line about a foot or so. Well, that's about like 10 inches, about 10 to 12 inches. And all that's going to do is when it goes down, it's going to drop down a little bit, but it's not it's not like it's gonna be like real crazy. It's just something a little bit different that maybe they're not used to if it's on a pressured body of water. But a lot of the times, my worms are pegged. A lot of my Texas rigs are pegged. I've had a lot of luck like that. I've caught a lot of fish. So this worm is very versatile. Like I said, you can throw it around a lot of different cover, and you can really, you know, shoot. Weed edges and docks were really good for me with these worms, and then just swimming them, you know, like I said, through into sparse cover. Okay, so that was 5 rods. So this last one, I don't throw a ton of, but it does get a lot of bites, and it is the wacky worm. Now you can do a wacky worm with a jig head or whatever you want, but I've just got this one. Now I've got, this is like the Cheeto color. This is, well, not Cheeto, but it kind of looks like it in a way. This is called methylate. It's a trick worm, zoom trick worm. And what I like to do is, there's a lot of you know, rings out there for these things, but I've just got the regular mustad. Is, you know, you can see it. It's still just a ring, but it's got a loop up on top. So that's my favorite. There's a lot of guys that have they're like bands. VMC's got one, and I think a couple other brands have some too. They're like bands. I don't know. I just don't. I think it's too much. I like the fact that this it gives the bait more action when it's going through, because that's what I'm looking for. Now, it doesn't have to be just a trick worm. You can throw, I mean, a lot of guys will throw a stick bait on there too for a wacky worm, or you can wacky rig a creature bait too. But the wacky worm is something that I will keep ready on hand and keep on the deck sometimes. This has caught me a lot of fish. I haven't gotten a lot of big fish on this yet. Maybe it's because I haven't thrown it around them. I don't know. But if I'm going, you know, going for a bite, this is what I'm going to throw out there. Had a lot of luck. This is a so this hook is a it's by VMC. I think it's their number one size, and it's got a little keeper on there. I apologize for not knowing the exact name of the hook, but it's their finesse, their finesse hook. So there's the last rod there, and these baits are, like I said, they're the ones that are going to be on my deck, and I'm going to have ready to go when I go to a new body of water, and I'm looking for a bite. I'm trying to figure out what the fish are doing in this body of water, or, you know, even if when I go back to my regular body of water, the body of water that I'm used to going to, and that I know. Sometimes those are the ones I'm picking up too. Now, there is another bait that I wasn't going to show, but you've been using it a lot lately for largemouth, and I've been getting a ton of bites on it. I've been catching a lot of fish on it too. So I'm gonna show you guys that one, and it has been catching me a ton of fish, and it's been one of my newer favorites. It's the big swim bait. This one is the dangerous swim bait from the dangerous 7-inch swim bait. This swim bait has been catching me a ton of fish. You know, not just, it doesn't have to be giants, really. I've caught some smaller fish too, some 2 and 3 pounders, but I've caught a lot of 4s and 5s, almost 6s, and then I've caught walleye off of this too. Obviously, you're gonna catch a lot of pike. That's okay, and you can, you know, if you look at some of these baits I have, there's a lot of teeth marks, a lot of slices on there, but these baits work pretty good. And the only reason why I went through one of these is because a pike bit off the tail. That's it. If they bite off the tail, well, then you're screwed. But I've had slices all the way down this bait from their teeth, and it still had good action. And I'm not an expert on swim baits. Okay, I'm not an expert on big swim baits, to say that. Well, I'm not an expert on anything anyways, but I'm not an expert on big swim baits. I do know I really like this one. The action is really good. I can swim it fast and slow and still keep that action, and just about everything bites it. So why wouldn't I? So I mean, so this one really will probably be on my deck too as a confidence lure and on new bodies of water, but I didn't really show it because it's just not one that I've thrown a lot. in my life. There is another bait too that I don't have out that a lot of you guys are probably wondering why I didn't show, is the spinner bait. Spinner bait gets a ton of bites, so keep that in mind too. I mean, we could go about 10 rods if you want, but I'm just gonna keep to what we got. Oh, that was perfect. Break the rods. So that's gonna do it for this one, guys. I just wanted to jump on here and let you guys know. I mean, I'm gearing up right now. I've got the deck full of rods. We're getting ready to go out for some fun spring fishing, and then we're gonna do some practice for the tournaments coming up. We got the Bass Nation Team Trail Cavitogama coming up, so that's the first one. And so we're going to be just practice videos. We're going to do the tournament video. Those videos probably won't come out till after the tournament, but we're going to do some fun fishing before then. So there might be a week or so with a lull in between videos, just because I'm going to be on the road for over a week. I'm going to try and get them uploaded as I'm on the road. But sometimes the internet sucks, and sometimes it'll take like 8 hours to load a video because I'm using a hotspot. So and it sucks, but it works, I guess. But I can load one video and then I'm out of data. So we'll see what happens. But we got fishing content coming up here soon, guys. Right now it'll be about a week and a half to 2 weeks out before I start that. So we'll have a couple other videos coming in between there. But just fishing content's coming. I'm sorry, it's winter. I don't do a whole lot of ice fishing, but it is coming along. So we will be fishing here soon. Got a lot of good stuff coming up here, and hopefully I can show you some hammers, some fish, and then go through a ton of smallmouth. Cavitogama is known for a lot of smallmouth. I'm not sure what stage you're going to be at. It's probably going to be pre-spawn or spawn, depending on water temperature and stuff, in the moon, whatever. I don't know. I'm not really good around the spawn. I know pre-spawn, I know post-spawn, but I've never actually fished for the fish at spawn or on. I don't like to, but hey, if you gotta get a check. You gotta do what you gotta do, otherwise you're gonna get your teeth kicked in sometimes. So, all right, guys, this video's gone on for a little bit longer than I wanted to. I'm gonna jump on, let you guys know my rods that I have that I'm going to be my go-to rods for any body of water for largemouth bass. Now, some of these might change, obviously, depending on the water and the structure, water clarity and the structure. But this is typically what I'm going to have on the deck whenever I hit the water. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. By the way, don't forget, go check out ARO Outdoors apparel. I'm not wearing the hat, sorry. I've got it laying up, and I've got a couple things. I've got things all over the place preparing for this trip, but go check them out. Hats, hoodies, ARO Outdoors apparel.com, and we got some t-shirts, got tank tops too. So check those out. Guys, I really appreciate you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and we'll catch you in the next video.